We are live. Welcome, everybody, to A Girl, a Guy, and a Movie. This is episode 47. We are discussing the movie from 2009, Pandorum. Hello, Janet from another planet. How are you?
Hello. I'm fine. I'm good.
Excellent. You know what I'm not hearing?
My
I don't
phone?
hear your phone.
I don't have it turned on.
The Legion of Meth. Hey,
The only way I could get it to where it wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of getting better at this, but I don't want to set myself up to fall because I do that really well.
It's only taken almost 50 shows.
Yeah, just about. So you hadn't ever seen this movie, heard about this movie, and whenever I threw it at you last week, you're like, what? What did you think about it?
I thought it was a really, really good, very intense, great sci-fi movie. Sci-fi drama, is that what you would put it under?
A psychological thriller with a sci-fi edge.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It's very good. Can't wait to talk about it.
It's got some weirdness to it. It's directed by W.S. Anderson,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like the weakest part about the movie. I'm not going to be ashamed to say I could have been okay without him involved with it.
Really?
I don't like that guy.
I mean, you got to remember, though, it's the director's vision that you end up seeing on the screen.
I know. And
I liked it. I thought he did a good job. I mean, I'm able to do that, though. I'm able to put aside an asshole director if he puts out good content. You could have the nicest director there is, but if his stuff is shit, nobody wants to watch it, then.
This is a movie directed by Christian Albert, and he's done some movies before, and his involvement with this film is actually what kited. I call it kited. He pulled Norman Reedus. Norman Reedus heard about the movie being in production, and he immediately calls up Christian Albert, like, let me in the film. I've got to do something. Just let me have a spot. And so he's like, come on in, Norman. We got a spot for you. And Albert was looking at it. He had done some script work for this movie. And then after that, he kind of was not he was director, but he didn't have like complete, absolute the helm about it like I wanted him to. Paul W.S. Anderson is one of the blights on Tinseltown, in my opinion, and I hate his involvement in films because he usually makes just absolute bilge movies, just the worst films.
Mm-hmm. So why did you buy a ticket to come see this one if you knew he was the director?
He wasn't the director; he was a producer.
Oh, I mean, he was involved in this movie.
He's really involved with it.
When you don't like someone, you don't go to their movies. So
I don't. He's just my least favorite person behind the scenes in Hollywood because he's involved with damn near all the Resident Evil movies, the Mortal Kombat movie from '95, which could have been a lot better, the Event Horizon, which could have been much better, Three Musketeers in 2011, which was just shit. He was involved with Death Race, which could have been a much better Jason Statham movie. I can't stand this guy. When he gets his fingerprints on a movie, it just
Well, I'm glad I didn't really pay that much attention to who the producers were and things. You told me about the movie and who was in it, and that was all I knew. And then I watched it, and I really enjoyed it. So it was really good. So even though it had someone you thought sucked as a producer, I'm glad he produced this movie. So my perspective on it is totally different than yours because I didn't, connect all that. So, that's what I tell people. Watch the trailer and try not to get too deep in a movie if you want to go and see if you can enjoy it. Because when you put somebody out there that you hate, how I feel about, I don't really like Tom Cruise and I don't like Sylvester Stallone. But I try to put that aside and watch their movies. And sometimes I'm really surprised, and other times I'm like, I was right. So, I try not to, put my point of view on too much stuff because it'll ruin every movie I watch if
I
you look
know.
into it too deep. So,
But this movie has a lot of things to really enjoy about it. It's set far in the future,
mhm,
and the first thing you see, hey, the crafting gamer, one of the first things you see pretty much a captain's face. They're all hearing the transmission from Earth. You're the best of us. God be with you.
mhm,
And then like it ends. Then that's last transmission from Earth you get, and they're basically told that there's no turning back. No Earth is left, and the ship hurtles through space. And then Ben Foster's dreaming about his wife, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed young lady that you get teased with about maybe 45 seconds of her throughout the entire
mhm.
movie,
Yeah.
and he's pining for that, and he doesn't doesn't really think much about it. He knows she's somewhere in the passenger section, and then he wakes up Dennis Quaid, who's in Bauer's cabin, Bauer's little pod.
Hmm.
So it's Captain Bauer, and Dennis Quaid doesn't really change story much. He's like, "Yeah, I'm Bauer. Uh, let's see what's going on." And then after he gets to the bridge, the two of them get to the bridge. Bauer sends Ben Foster out through the ship. To figure out what's going on. We're having problems. See if you can get the reactor fired up. And that's really where the movie, for me, is at, because he's trying to explore these portions of the ship which are shut down or they're malfunctioning and things are just AWOL.
Well, I thought that whole scene was pretty interesting because as soon as Ben Foster wakes up, it's a little more dramatic of a scene because he's
Yes.
unhooking himself from all the nutrients and stuff, I guess, that he was being fed through the tubes, and then he's peeling off the some type of membrane that they cover everyone in to keep them fresh, I guess,
Mhm.
germ free, or I don't know for sure because we don't get that detailed into it, but all the details about that was pretty interesting. Trying to understand what they just went through and why they were hooked up because you didn't know any of that stuff. And then you see them having flashbacks, but when they're having the flashbacks, you don't know if it's Bauer or the other guy, whatever his name was. Was it Peyton?
Yeah, I believe it's Peyton.
Yeah, Peyton and Bauer. Okay, you don't know which one it is because both of them are blonde. For one, you don't know how long these people have been on there or anything. So you're trying to absorb the information, or if it's even one of them, you don't really know for sure if it's them, except the part where you see him in it and his voice talking to the woman. So you know it's his girlfriend or his wife or something like that. And he's having like flashes of what he's expected to do on the ship. So in a way, they're like, you think they're frozen in there or they're in cryogenics, and the whole time they're hooked up to something that's training them on their job or what they're expected to be doing when they get woken. You know what I mean? Wherever
Yeah,
their
you see the
destination or
year
whatever.
before from the
So.
moment when they go under to when they are supposed to wake up. So they're going to have little media bits fed into them to try
Mhm.
to help their brain reset and adjust accordingly so they can do their assigned task for humanity. And it's kind of important to have that, once you find out exactly what's going on with the movie, because the movie lets you know what's going on a little bit later, but
Mhm.
it feeds it to you in pieces, which is really well done. The only caveat to the movie I find is the fact that Paul W.S. Anderson added space zombies in it, which
Well, I didn't even look at them as zombies.
or space mutants, my bad.
Well, to me, they were more like, as the movie flowed along, it was like each person was woke up at certain times, and it was on a delay because it had to have been delayed because as the girl is standing there, Nadia standing there with her hand on the scanner, right? And she's like, wait, you got to wait. Because that's when you realize, oh, she's waiting for the power surge so that it can read her palm, right? So something has happened over time. We don't know how long it is to cause a delay in the system. Okay.
It's supposed to be 123 years. Hey,
well, the thing is that the people are being woke up. And as they're getting woke up, that some bad things are happening to some of them, right? So they were lucky when they were awoken that they were in a sealed off chamber where these the people that I think the first ones that were opened up, like certain groups were supposed to be opened up at certain times to start the progression of what's going to be happening on the planet to get it ready for the people, right?
Correct.
For the other people, so they'd have food and water and homes and things like that. So you had each group setting up their division of whatever to repopulate the new planet that they were going to land on. And so what I could take from it was these people opened up to take care of the reactor and some of the other things to get the ship ready to implement whatever it is that they need to put out on the planet, right? To test the air or whatever else it was supposed to do. And somehow the failure of the reactor causes leak of radiation. Because as you can see, over time, these people have slowly changed to like creatures that used to the dark because there's no lights, because it's very fluctuating of power because of the reactor being damaged, okay, in some form. So that to me is where it came from. It was more like they evolved into something different, because as you see later on, when the smaller ones come out, that they're procreating, right? And feeding on, they were cannibals, feeding on the other people simply because that's the only food resource they had, because none of them knew how to grow plants or vegetables. Because remember, it was all in sections, and they each had those tattoos on their arm to scan onto the different sections of the ship. And then basically they would learn what their jobs were, through what means that the ship was supposed to feed them information or whatever. I just thought that it was all very awesome.
I thought they did a lot of work, and I felt like they had somebody like Asimov, maybe not Isaac Asimov himself, but somebody of the caliber of Asimov helping write the script, because the script felt very much more advanced than what we are usually given for science fiction fare. And it's usually, we don't get something that's, that well thought out. And you covered it pretty damned well. They have that 123-year trip to colonize Tanis. It's an Earth-like planet, M-class planet for you Star Trek people. And so everybody's going to hypersleep. And the rotating crew wake biennially to maintain the ship. In 8 years into the mission, it receives a transmission from Earth, and you're all that's left of us. Good luck, God bless, and Godspeed.
But see, one thing I noticed, because I talked to a few people about it, and some of them were saying, were these clones or were this, that, and the other? But I don't think they were clones. I think they were all frozen. They were cryogenic tubes, not hydro tubes or whatever you want to call it, where they're sleeping. Because if they were just sleeping, then they would all have aged and died, basically, right? So if they're frozen, okay, like let's say Dennis Quaid's character was frozen as a young child when he was put on there, right, with his parents or whatever, I don't know, and over a certain amount of time as he was on the ship, it opened, so he was able to come out, okay, and he got back in and put himself back in the machine because of his psychosis or whatever. I mean, I'm not 100% on it, because there's different ways that you could view his, what was happening to him.
His condition.
Yeah, because one thing I did notice, and I thought, nefarious things right off the bat, is because when you saw Ben Foster come out, right, he had to peel all that stuff, whichever would protect him from being frozen, right? See if the whole, remember the ship's
it's just all the diodes and everything, making sure that you're plugged in. And
the thing is, you saw the frost on the inside when he's looking out, remember? So to me, it was like they were frozen in there to keep them from aging, because what good is a ship you send 100 and something years into the future, right? But everybody ages and dies, and there's nobody to take care of the new species or whatever. So I think they were cryogenically frozen and then slowly were to thaw out when the time that they got to the planet, or whatever, depending on, or they were thawed out at different times, depending on what was needed of them and how long they had before they got to the planet, right? You know, the ship was supposed to know, because it was a humongous, ginormous ship when you got to see it outside before it went in. And then when you saw that and you saw Ben Foster come out, he had to peel all that stuff out, take the tubes out of his throat, you know, unhook himself. But when Dennis Quaid fell out, he didn't have to unhook himself and have all the stuff. Remember, it was very
There's a story behind that
on him. See, I noticed that right off the bat and was like, he's been out of his tube. That's what I was thinking. And then he got back in there because he heard the other guy's tube going to be open. So he hid and made it look like he wasn't out yet, because his recovery time was slower and everything. You know what I mean? It took him, he was able to, I don't know, it just seemed like, and he knew way more stuff than the other guy did. And and then remember, his hand was started shaking, his nose started bleeding. I think he'd been awake a lot longer and he'd aged more.
Well, Quaid didn't go in the pods that old.
No, I know.
Something. And
remember the second personality that came out, that's where he was when he got rid of the other people. See? So I think that when he realized that he was having something was not right, he put himself in the thing and gave himself a sedative, you know, but hooked himself up the best he could. And he aged, though. See, he started to age after that. So whatever amount of time it was at least 20 or 30 years of time that went by while he was back in the cryo tube to put himself to sleep. And when the other guy pushed the button, it got him back out, but he had already been out. I could tell by the way, the process of himself waking up.
He didn't have the same in-depth wake-up process that Bauer had.
Way different.
Bauer was completely encased properly. He had been asleep for the proper amount of time. When he finds Captain Peyton looks like, you know, he's kind of fresh, you know. He
Hungar says he has to go to sleep. Sorry. Hungar's saying he has to go to bed. Well, good night.
Hey, Hungar. Have a good night, my friend.
Stopping by.
Watch us in the morning.
I just now saw the chat and I wanted to say hi to him. But I'm glad you stopped by and hope you feel better. Get some sleep.
He thinks you are a Southern belle.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Bauer goes over the ship, or goes through the ship, and he bumps into Norman Reedus, who's a injured mechanic, got some problems.
Well, before he bumped into him, remember, he found the other person. It was like a snare. It was like a trap set to capture people.
And the mechanic says, "Look out for them." And that noise, it summons the cannibalistic humanoids, and they're going to respond mostly to sound. They're really good at hearing. That was something I noticed I was watching this movie with earbuds the first time. The sound in this movie is fantastic.
Yeah.
And so after he bumps into Reedus and Reedus dies, there you go, Christian Helvart. Thank you for the paycheck. He bumps into, or he doesn't bump into, Nadia bumps into him.
And Nadia attacks him first.
Yes.
And then she runs off, but you could tell she'd been out for a while too, because see how fast she was. She was sure on her feet. So that's what I was talking about. The person gets out, okay, and it takes them a little time for their body to adjust, because you remember they haven't been using their muscles or anything, you know, basically. No. Maybe there was massagers or whatever in those suits that they were wearing and stuff. I don't know. I'm not sure, you know, because like in the hospital, when people are like bedridden, they have these massagers they put on their ankles and up their legs, and it kind of squeezes in them and massages to make sure the blood moves around.
I wish I had experienced that when I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, because I could have used that.
Well, you weren't unconscious though, right?
I was conscious.
Okay, well,
They were
that's
trying
why
to
they didn't
intubate
do it.
me.
You're supposed to get up and do your own exercise.
Yeah, they wanted me to be intubated, and that was where we had a difference of opinion. So I lost about 40 pounds in 3 weeks.
That's not good.
I I didn't really do a whole lot of eating at first because it's a
I'm showing
VA
my muscles. Yeah,
hospital.
I'm ready to kick some ass. Someone's making a comment about my. I work out. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Um,
she's got some guns. Um,
but
now the you lose weight when you're bedridden, and I could only imagine that whenever these guys came out of these tubes, they would be hungry and such. And once Nadia and him make nice, she offers him some protein, and that takes the form of a grasshopper. And Ben Foster is an actor that believes do it, don't
Mhm.
do CGI. So he
Yeah.
actually ate the grasshopper.
Hmm. Yeah, I wonder if there was any PETA people going, "Oh my God, they ate a real life bug" during the movie making. I don't know, but yeah, lots of people eat bugs. I mean, before all the stink that you're hearing now about crickets and all that stuff, I knew people right here in the United States that raised earthworms. And they take the earthworms, but they're made. They raise them in a special soil that's very clean. I know that sounds stupid, but it's like got special stuff in it to take bacterias and stuff out. And then the earthworms get really big, and then they take these huge pounds of earthworms and send them off, and then they dehydrate them. Then they crunch it down and make like a flour out of them. So you can make cookies and all kinds of things out of them. And I know it sounds terrible, but the first people that leave and go to Mars or to colonize somewhere, that's going to be the easiest way to do it, because you can take millions and millions of eggs of different insects. Okay, I know it sounds disgusting, but my dad was a jungle survival instructor, and I've eaten bugs before. I've eaten other creatures that people normally wouldn't eat. But I tried lots of different stuff because that's what my dad trained people to eat. If you were to crash land in a desert or a jungle, or different environments have different types of animals that are edible and insects. So um, if you're hungry, you're gonna eat. You want to eat whatever
Find
it
a way
is.
to chew that grasshopper, chew that cricket if you're hungry.
Yeah, you'll eat it.
That,
Hate to
that
say
sounds
that, but
disgusting to you and me, but whenever it comes time to making, food, you're like, I'll eat it. Give it to me.
I mean, think about it. We go to a restaurant and we eat sushi. We eat a raw fish. I mean, how hungry did the first person have to be to pull a fish out of the lake and eat it? Raw. So we're not thinking back about that because we're getting it in a restaurant, and we're having someone, make it all pretty and put it on your plate for you. But basically, if you go back and think about it, people have been eating snakes and lizards and tarantulas and all kinds of weird creatures for a long, long time before we were even thought of. So there you go.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I've been at points in my life where I've eaten things that I'm probably not too proud of, but I I really got to say that eating sushi not on my top 10 list.
Well, I one day would like to sign the waiver and try some pufferfish before I'm too old to enjoy it. So I might not survive it, but I'd like to try. That's something I would like to try to eat.
Yeah, there's a scene from a movie I want to show real quick.
Hmm.
Not the movie that we watched, but it's a movie.
Sorry, I'm getting me something to drink. Oh, it's good.
Yep, Gollum eating a fish. So
It's what?
it was Gollum eating a fish, and it made me think of that. So yeah, and let's see. You haven't been eating cooked food all that long. Navy chow will do that to a man. Lady, lady's like, I will eat people before I eat bugs.
I don't know. I think I would have. I could find a lot more things to eat before I would eat a person.
Eh,
It depends. It depends. Just like that movie that was based on that real plane crash where they crashed.
Alive.
Yeah.
I remember that movie,
True
1993.
story. And it's sad that they had to do something like that. But I'm telling you, when you're in that situation where you're starving or your child is begging for food, you'll come up with whatever you can.
Give it to me raw and real. Love that quote. This movie's kind of weird. It's got the cannibalized humanoids, and it as just like a factor to kind of help drive things along. They're not my favorite part of the movie by any means. It's the weakest part of the film, I think, in front of the camera. But they show that they've kind of got a civilization set up, or they've got their own little hierarchy set up. And they've been procreating because you do get to see a young one later on. But
I thought it was so scary. The part that I thought was the scariest part for me in this movie was when the one gentleman, a guy, his pod opens and he's starting to awaken, and he starts to come out and he's taking his mask off and stuff. And the next thing you know, all those creature people just attack them and just start ripping him to shreds. So he didn't even know what's happening. He starts to wake up and he's being eaten alive by a horde of these people, basically, that have been transformed. And I really do believe in the scene where they get near the reactor and you've got them all sleeping around it, like for warmth or whatever, in that like nest of those creatures, all ages. You see some that are older, and then you see the little children, and they're all like laying all over each other, like it was just gross. It was really gross. Yeah, it was a huge nest of them, and they're all using each other for warmth. And the fact that that they're civilized to a degree is the fact they're not eating each other. Okay. They're only eating and feeding on the people that wake up from the pods. It's almost like the first ones became desperate and probably killed each other to eat. But as the years have gone by, they realize, hey, a pod opened, there's a fresh meat, it's time to eat, and they'll just go and start eating them. And you can tell they don't cook anything because they have no means of cooking, or they don't understand anything because they've evolved, basically. They didn't, they've lost a concept of that, but they were starting to evolve again, as you've seen that they had, like you said, they had like a leader, and then they were having babies, and they had small children and stuff that they were teaching, how to survive on this ginormous ship. And that's all they've ever known, and what these children would have been like if they ever got out. You know what I mean? It was really creepy. I mean, the whole concept of it, and their ashen colored skin because they never had any sunlight. I just thought it was really gross. And then the scene where he bumps into the Asian guy that has the other markings in another language, on his arm, which showed you in a way when Nadia is explaining about it being like a giant ark, basically. The whole ship, it has plants and eggs of all these different animals and trees and all kinds of crops and everything to repopulate this other planet whenever that they were projected to land on, so that they could pull all the stuff out and start putting it out and growing and have food to eat, and to be able to, start over again in a whole new world, but have technology that they wouldn't have had if they just evolved. You know what I mean? So I just thought that whole concept was really cool. And it was so different too, when the whole ship was dark and dingy and had leaks and was rusty looking in some areas and stuff like that. And then when she opened that door and you go in, it's white and sterile and clean. And that's what the grasshoppers were and stuff. It was a totally different look on the whole ship compared to everything else that they see. Even with that guy what was that guy's name? The Benny or something. The guy that fed him, and then
you mean Leland?
Yeah, Leland.
Leland, and the Oriental guy's name is Man.
Okay, because he double crossed him. That's the one thing I was saying when I was watching that part, when they get in and they turn that big thing to shut the door, right? And they get in there, and that guy's like doing stuff up there, and he never comes down there and shakes her hand or does anything like that. He's just very bizarre to me. Because even the guy that almost kicked Ben Foster's ass, could have killed him like that, the Asian guy, in their fight that they had, they even had personal contact after all that, when they made up and they realized they were all trying to do the right thing as survive, right? But this guy never comes down off the ledge or anything, but they eat the food that he drops down. There's no way I wouldn't have ate it.
No.
So to me, that was one fault in the show. What I would have done if it'd been me is I would have had like the Asian guy or just one of the people say, put their finger in and taste it or something to see whether or not, it was poisoned or something. You know what I mean? Before the other ones would start gobbling it down or whatever. So I don't know. I just thought that was, that was the one part that I just had a hard time trying to understand. Now, if he would have dropped a canister down there and gassed them because he was high up, you know what I mean, and put them to sleep that way, then that would have been a little bit more believable to me. And then they wake up and they're hanging upside down because he's tied them up. You know what I mean?
And the whole time that he's doing that and talking to them about this king that had his kingdom, Gallo finds his way to Peyton, and then Gallo explains how he killed all the other officers, how he killed the other members of the crew, and that coincides, that revelation coincides with the entire discussion from Leland about what's gone on the ship. Before you woke up, all this happened.
Yeah.
And then everybody falls asleep, and he does have a bit of a dark side, because he's asked a question about how long have you been awake, and then Leland's like, "What day is today? Tuesday? No, I can't. It doesn't matter." And it's kind of funny the way he reacts, but the actor that
I don't know, there was something about when he was pulling him out of all those wires and stuff, almost like he was giving birth. You know what I'm saying? Like the ship was giving birth to him, the way he was pulled out of it, and he's covered with grease and he's naked, right? So when he pulled him out, I thought that was kind of bizarre. I was like, I don't trust this guy, keep an eye on him. Then you see him again a little bit later, and he's sitting over there in the corner, basically covered up with a blanket, only partially covered, like he's sitting there exposed still.
Yeah.
Like a zombie, or it was weird. Then you see him again, and now he's got a uniform on. So that's when I said, he's not even there. It's in his imagination. You know what I mean? And then that reminded me of Fight Club. Okay. The whole double personality or something.
That reminded me of the movie that you had me watch with, I can't think of the guy's name.
Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner, and
that was really good, though. That was I thought that movie with Kevin Costner was a way better portrayal of a split personality. Basically, it was ingenious. I just love that movie. I still love that movie. It's one of my favorites. Still, I thought Mr. Brooks. It's a very good movie, but that's when it hit me. This is his imagination. It's him talking, because then you said he gives himself when he's talking to the other person that's not there. He's giving himself hints about that he's having this pandorum, basically, is what's happening to him. Because you see his handshake, okay? Then you see the blood dripping from his nose. So he's basically going through this process, and he knows. That's why he fixes the that little injection gun, and he's ready to give that guy a jab. And then when he's fighting with him, and then you see the arms like mold together because it's the same arm. I just thought that was really good. That was a really cool
That was a very good effect.
special effect for you to see that he's pulling him back into himself, and then he injects himself to calm himself down because he knows that that he's having an episode or whatever, and he needs to calm down. But really, if you think about it, if he hadn't done everything that he did in that room, in that control center, to help the other guy find out where the path that he needed to take to get to the reactor, nobody would have survived.
Nope.
You know what I mean? So even though he was messed up and really having a hard time fighting with himself during this psychosis, he still was able to fulfill his duties that he was sent there in the first place for, even though he'd killed a bunch of people because of his psychosis.
Yeah, the other aspect is that once Bauer and Man and Nadia wake up and they manage to convince Leland to let him down, we gotta save the ship. We're getting ready to break apart, and Leland sees some reason there because he's like, I thought the flight crew was dead, and it coincides with what you just witnessed with Gallo and Peyton. So you're like, okay, this is starting to make a little bit more sense. This is the second time watching this movie. You have to watch 2 times, I think. This is like a Fight Club.
I only get to see it once so far, but I am definitely going to watch it again because it was there was so many details, the massiveness of the way that they were able to portray the ship by the angles they used, up and down angles, the way they filmed. And yes. It was just, I'm trying to, it reminded me a little bit of Alien, the first, or maybe it was the second one. Was the second
the first one on board the Nostromo?
The one where the little girl was in it.
Oh, that's Aliens.
Okay, the second one. Certain scenes reminded me of that, like when you were looking down and you could see under the floor, but yes. There was like another space under there, little things like that, and the angles of the walkways in the hall, and then the little ladders that went up to the different chutes, and the way that they were made of that grated
it's a grated
metal,
metal.
That you could take a piece off and move it aside, almost like what I would think a real ship would look like, and not like, I grew up loving Star Trek and loving the way that the ship was made, but when you really think about it, and we build something ourselves to go somewhere, it's going to be more like this was, because you have to have easy access to every single wire or anything, because if you have a short out, you're not going to be able to get to these places, so you have to have the grids or whatever, those graded, I don't know what you'd call those.
I would just say they're access panels.
Yeah, but you have to be able to have access panels everywhere, wherever there's wires or conjunction boxes, things like that, because how else are you supposed to get to it if you have no access to it, and you have to cut holes in the ship just to get to stuff. To me, that's what a ship would look like. And that's why I think I loved Alien and Alien so much, because to me, the way the ships looked, on film, looked like something I would believe would be what the ships would really look like on the inside. They may be fancier or whatever on the outside, but just like the space shuttle, a lot of people are really surprised when they do those live streams from it, of how intricate it is and how many compartments are all over the place. It's like covered with it because they have to have access and panels that come off and go back on and everything to get to everything you need. Because if you have a short, it could take the whole ship down. So you have to have a way to get to everything. So to me, that was, I liked it. I thought that was more believable at the corridors and when they're running through the ship and stuff, and then when he's climbing through the duct work, to get to the other areas in the ship to drop down in there. I thought that was really good. And the fact that there was a spider, did you see that?
Yes.
That was very detailed to me, because that proved to me that they brought everything they could possibly think of and put it on this, like an ark, basically.
That was the entire purpose of the ship Elysium. That it was designed just to be a portable Earth and have a laboratory for everything that we had, every strain of DNA that we could carry with us, every animal we could pack into the ark, and off we
Yeah, they
went.
were trying to recreate
60,000 people.
Earth.
Yeah, we wanted to repopulate.
But people
somewhere.
don't realize how many things we have created through science by using spider webs, the strength of spider webs, the different chemicals the spinnerets of a spider, and how we've been able to create different things. I think Kevlar was one of the things that they ended up being able to create because of spider webs, and also what was it? Silkworms.
Yes.
You know, different things like that, and the science behind what's in the chemicals inside of silk. And the different spider webbing and things like that is the reason why we were able to come up with lots of different things. So to me, when you saw that, I just thought it was really cool to see a spider in there, because a lot of people are scared of spiders. So that brought up the arachnophobia fear, basically. And he's also in a claustrophobic hole in the ship, surrounded by all these weird looking pipes and cables and stuff like that. So I thought all of that was just really creepy, and it really put you on edge, like, because you didn't know what could pounce out, and then it's a spider, so, and that was before we saw the creatures. So the tension was building and building and building, and then you saw something. At first it was the girl. That was the first thing you saw. And so you knew people were out in the ship. So, but where were all the people? And then they talked about it, Dennis Quaid's character and Ben Foster, about their loved ones, like where do you think your wife is at on this ship? So things like that. I just thought that was really cool, because it really made you think about because you knew it was huge, because at the beginning, when they slowly pan in towards the ship, right? It's ginormous. I mean, humongous giant ship. And then it goes into the one little module area where you see the windows, and it looks like it could be a flight deck or something, or where the captain would be sitting in the seat. And that's when you go in, and then that's when you see the canisters that the two people are in, and they both come out of there. Ben Foster's first, and then Dennis Quaid comes out. But I really felt like Dennis Quaid was already out and had went back in, because he didn't go through any of the same process that the other guy was. I think that's one reason why they were so detailed on watching Ben Foster's character, rip the mask off, pull the tubes out of his throat, take the things off his arms, and then peel that rubbery substance off of his body, all the stuff. And then he fell. Remember, he fell about, what was it, 2 feet?
Yeah.
To the thing when he unhooked himself. Dennis Quaid was already on the bottom. He didn't have the tubes down his throat. There was a lot of things. So to me, right off the bat, I was like, I think Dennis Quaid's the bad guy in this, because he was hiding in there, or he was pretending to be hooked up. And he knew the other guy would be disoriented, because he had just woke up, so he'd be able to fool him. You know what I mean? I don't know. Then when they sat down he sat down at the module, he knew exactly how to start it up. He knew everything really fast. And why did he know that when the other guy didn't even really know who he was, basically? You know what I mean?
Yeah, he had to kind of have his mind jarred so he could remember everything that was in his skill set.
Mm-hmm. So I just thought that was very interesting right off the bat, because that's why I had my doubts about Dennis Quaid's character, because I could tell that I really had the feeling that he had already been out of his cryo tube. And I really do believe there were cryo tubes, like what they had in the TV show Futurama, that Fry was frozen,
Yes.
And that's what I think. I think it was a cryotube, not a hypo chamber or whatever, where they just slept. Because if they slept, they would have all died of old age. So they had to have been frozen and then thawed out to have them perform certain feats and acts on the ship to prepare for everyone else to be able to be let out. So that's what I think. But I could be wrong. I'd have to watch it a couple more times to see if something else comes out.
Then after all of this stuff happens, they start heading back to the bridge. Leland is the first one to make it back to the bridge, and Gallo jams the injection that he had prepared for himself into the eye of Leland. And one of my favorite things pops up in the movie, and that is good body horror special effects. And good God, is that eye wound just amazing? That made me so happy to see. And I know this is not something that like you should be happy that like, oh, Bruce is enjoying the movie. No. This is probably not a good thing for it to be shown, but I enjoyed that a lot.
That was pretty gruesome. And the scene that was, to me, was one of the most gruesome one was when the Asian guy is standing there. Was it the Asian guy or was it
it's man and that one humanoid have that fight, and then he before Nadia had stopped him from killing the baby mutant.
She goes, yeah, that's a child. Yeah, she told it that's just a child.
And listen, if you're ever on a spaceship and you kill,
I would have killed it. Humanoid, sorry.
And there's a little baby behind it, kill it too. All right, because I can guarantee it's not going to be there for your betterment. It's seeking your end. You are food to it. And Nadia stops him from killing it. And then later, man has a real nasty fight. And the little baby standing there, and man just like, it's just a baby. Then it slices its throat.
Yeah, to see his throat, when it went across his throat like that, and you could see it just slowly open up. That was really gross. I mean, and it looked pretty real. I mean, how old was this movie? When did it come out?
Came out in 2009.
Wow. I thought the special effects and stuff were pretty good.
There's some bad CGI in here, but for the most part, the stunt work is done very well. The body horror special effects, the prosthetics are done fantastic, but there is some crap CGI. And
well, you can tell it wasn't definitely. See, what's really sucks is we are in the future. We're watching this movie that was made in 2009. So we're seeing old technology when it comes to CGI. I mean, today you can't even hardly tell the difference between the good CGI from real life. You know what I mean? Like you're watching a car chase or whatever on the news and seeing a crash. You can make a fake CGI crash look just as real as a real crash that you'd see on the news today. So it's really hard to tell, but yeah, some of the special effects when it came to that weren't very, top notch, but still the prosthetics they used on some of the creatures and their costuming for the creatures and things like that, I thought was really good, but definitely the props and like the thing that he had on his arm.
Yes.
The only thing I got so pissed over and over again is I'm like, the thing falls off his arm like nothing. It was like every time I turn around, it's flying off or landing over there and someone else is picking it up. And I was like, you need to strap that thing to your arm and keep it, because how can you use it? I mean, it was pretty cool the way it worked. It was like a sonic boom or something. Is that what you would call that? Man, I'd love to have one of them. That was pretty cool.
I could fix a lot of problems. Oh, it looks like I can't get your septic tank lit up. Let me hit it with the thumper, and let me see if I can dislodge it. Oh, yeah,
The one thing I would do is I'd put it in my car in the seat next to me, and when some jerk off is right in my ass, and then he starts to pass me, I just open the window and go, pew, like that, and just shoot him off the other side of the road or something. Because man, I tell you, I can't stand people that ride your ass and they honk and shit. And when they can just pass you,
that is a problem.
I can't stand those people. But I'm always afraid to do anything today because they'll pull out a gun and just shoot you.
We have a lot of that problem in San Antonio right now.
It just depends on where you're driving at, whether you're going to get killed or not. Or they'll run you off the road or something.
So
But that thing was cool. I don't know what it was called. I'd have to look it up, but that was a really cool weapon.
it was. I kind of got upset about how he used it because he starts freaking out, and poor Bauer. Bauer is not well. He had the realization as they're going back up to the bridge, basically, that his wife is dead. She's either dead or she's one of those mutant people.
Yep.
And he's not feeling well. And they get him up to the bridge, and he's still freaking out. He's not communicating well, and he's seeing shit coming out of the panels, and that's when he blows the panel open.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Nadia is fighting for her life against freaking Peyton because he's, trying to kill him and Bauer off.
Yeah.
And she's functioning in the here and now. Ben Foster's character, staring off at the panel, which is bulging and breathing and heaving around. And he finally shoots the panel. And that's when the shot ricochets up and hits the top
glass. Yeah.
And Nadia looks up and she sees like this bioluminescent animal swimming through the water. And the computer suddenly tells everybody, this is an appropriate time. This mission has taken 923 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, they all three realize at that moment that they're underwater, and that means they've crash landed wherever they were supposed to be at.
And there wasn't a guarantee they'd make it to Tanis, but for 800 years, it's been sitting on the ocean bed. And the worst part about not the zombies, but about the Elysium is that I don't really get the feeling that was ever a prop. It was always a CGI piece, and its various iterations floating through space or on the planet. It was never a physical piece.
Yeah.
So it's sitting there, and now the glass in the cockpit starting to break. So it's time to run.
I remember a couple times, if I remember once I saw that they were underwater, they were in like an ocean somewhere on another planet. Then I had flashbacks in my head of them when they were going through the ship and climbing and going through different areas, that water was leaking.
Yes.
A few times you could see water dripping in and the rust. Remember, and you saw the fungus growing on the inside of the ship, in different areas and stuff. So all of that started to make sense to me, because that's what happens when a sunken ship sinks, a submarine or whatever. Well, if it's so deep, it implodes, right? It collapses in on itself.
That crush depth, yeah.
So apparently this ship crashed closer to shore than that deep of an ocean, where there were not so deep that it would implode. But over time, out of hundreds of years, it's rusting. It's starting to rust and slowly leak. And the reactor is about to shut down, which means no one will survive, because they're not going to be fed anymore. They're not going to be moisture given, fluids or whatever else for the people that are still in cryogenic departments or whatever. So if they didn't do something soon, like restart the whatever it was called, the nuclear reactor.
Yeah, they had the reactor started, and whenever they realize what's going on, they're able to purge.
Yeah, when they push the button, to get all the pods to shoot out. That was what they need to do, but or everybody would have died. So the fact that they were able to do that and release everything, and probably some of the pods also had the food and the seeds and creatures, eggs, whatever it is that they needed to restart the planet. You know what I mean? Because they would have to start over. But there was people left, because you saw when each of the pods shot out and the doors opened on them, right? So they were released, and you could see other heads popping up out of the other pods. So other people lived. So basically, Dennis Quaid's character also, even though he was in this psychosis, helped save all those people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to detract, the effect the effect of him murdering all those people initially, then hundreds of years
Yeah.
later, he's one of the catalysts for why everybody makes it off the ship mostly intact. Now there was a lot of people that don't make it off the ship at all.
Yeah, because they got eaten over hundreds of years. A lot of people were being eaten by those other cannibals.
Yep.
As soon as they popped out of when the creatures heard someone popping out, they ran towards it and gobbled them up.
He's too disoriented to fight back.
Yeah, because they didn't even know what was happening. They had no idea. Because they probably didn't have memories either. They would have to have the little flashbacks and everything in their heads, just like we were seeing with the characters that were out. The only ones that we didn't see were the Asian guy, the guy that made the meals for them, or that tried to kill them, and the woman, Nadia. We didn't get to see any of their stuff because they were already awake when these two woke up. So that all of that was just the details of all that. We never got to really find out. All we know is the little bit that Nadia was able to explain about how it was an arc, and then you got to see some of the when the camera panned across and you saw all the little modules in that big open thing filled with different things from all over the world.
That I think is a real money shot in this movie, because they did a lot of really good camera work, even though that looks like a CGI pan.
Yeah.
That looks like they did a lot of money get dumped into that one shot just to give it that expansive feeling and not make it look like it was like a PS2 quality cutscene between levels of a game.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say PS2 games are bad, guys. I love
but it did help fill in a lot of gaps to help you understand the details of why the ship was so massive. Because remember, when we're seeing it for the first time, zooming in closer and closer to get to the area where you see the camera goes through the glass, and that's when you see the guys, the first character bust out of the cryogenic tube, right? He's released and shot out, and you see it thaw out, because at first it's covered with frost in there. That's why I know he was, frozen, or why I feel that. And but you don't realize it when you see this ship, that it's not in outer space. It's at the bottom of the ocean. We didn't see any biochemical creatures swimming around that were glowing in the dark and stuff. It was total darkness. We didn't see any stars or anything, but nobody thinks about it, because in the vastness of space, there's not 50,000 stars all right next to each other. They're millions of miles from each other, some of them. So you would just assume right off the bat that it's flying through space, but it wasn't. It was just sitting on the bottom of the ocean on this planet.
And that is something that I noticed whenever we're in the in the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of spots where you have black glass on top of them, and I don't remember seeing a whole lot of shots where it shows the stars streaking by.
Nothing. It was blackness. That's why I thought that there wasn't a window there, because for a couple times when they showed around the room a little bit, I thought they were in a different room, because I remembered the scene when we first got brought in. You saw them go through the glass, the camera basically, into the area that looked like a cockpit almost, the command center or whatever you want to call it. And then it went to the cryogenic tubes. So when they were showing the different scenes inside, and the camera was panning around the room, and then you were seeing the lockers, that had the arm thing that he got, the weapons. It said weapons, and then it had different stuff written on the different doors, right? And you got the uniform on, and all that stuff. I remember not seeing any window, and then I was like, he must be in a different space that doesn't have the window. And then the door, they kept trying to claw their way in. And remember when he went, the young guy that had gotten out, and he was trying to go through the door, you could see that it was all pried at and scratched all up, like someone else before them had been clawing at it, right? And the one who was clawing at it was Dennis Quaid's person, because the other guy had went up the same way he did because he found his body up there, remember? So it wasn't, they didn't go out that door, the other person. Dennis Quaid's character was the only one that opened and closed that door before the power started going out. And that's when he knew he needed to wake this other guy up because the reactor's dying. And he knew this guy is the one that can reset it. So he didn't have to go out there and risk getting killed. So he sent the other guy. That's how all of this started popping in my head and how I saw it when I was, watch as it went along. That's what started clicking to me in my head. Is that how you took it, or did you see it some different?
I didn't see it really that differently. I just saw it as that Bauer was initially cued to wake up, and as he's waking up, through happenstance or a coincidence, he bumps into Dennis Quaid.
Mm-hmm.
And Quaid's awakening procedure is a little less intensive than Bauer's.
Mm-hmm.
So
definitely,
once Peyton gets secured in the captain's chair and he starts assigning stuff for Bauer to do, it seemed like there was an agenda that I wasn't able to see or what hadn't perceived yet, because it took me 2 viewings of this movie to understand Gallo killed everybody else through his pandorum and his sickness and his mental illness that he had going on through the onset of just being awake in space with nobody to talk to, aside from the 4 or 5 people on his crew on his shift. And then he just snapped. Space sickness is what they call it in Star Trek.
Yeah.
So he starts going AWOL, or not AWOL, but he goes just AFU and starts just going after the rest of his crew. And I realized that in the first movie, he was bad. But then the second time I watch it, I realized, oh shit, he actually did that. And
see, that's what I mean. By his flashbacks and stuff that Dennis Quaid was having, that's when I realized that he was talking to himself, the younger version of himself that murdered those people. Okay.
And that's funny.
And that's why when he started getting the energy surges, he knew that he couldn't stay in there and stay frozen because it's all going to shut down, that the reactor was going to giving up, was starting to run out and need to be reset. So that's when he decided, I have to, in his moment of clarity where he wasn't in the, the real struggle in himself, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He was able to say, okay, I got to bring this guy out and help him get through so he can restart the reactor, because I can't do it by myself.
Yeah, he didn't have clearance, or he didn't have
he knew he didn't have the wherewithal to do it, to follow through with it, because he was messed up. So basically, it all boils down to that one person, which was Dennis Quaid. Yeah, the one person that was supposed to do certain things, he ended up killing most of the people, and he left one person left that could reset the reactor, because he didn't know who else was out there. All he knew was his portion of the ship, what his job was and the people that were involved with his job. And he had killed all of them except for the one. So when he let him out, he had to, act the best that he could. And, like he knew what he was doing. It showed him how to do everything and how to go, where to go to the reactor so he could restart it before it failed. Because he knew once it failed, we were all going to die. And that little bit of clarity that he had to get this going was the reason why everyone else was able to live. Even though he was the bad guy, he was also the hero. You know what I mean? So I thought that was totally a different spin on of what I thought was going to happen in the whole process of this movie, because that's what to me was so interesting and it made it very exciting. But you had to figure it out as it went, because it wasn't like a lot of things you haven't figured out before the end anyways. But you don't. This one, it goes literally almost to the very end of the movie before you figure out that the hero's the bad guy. But he's still a hero, because if he hadn't been able to keep that little bit of him sanity still, none of this would have worked out. And if it hadn't been for, was it Peyton or Bauer? Was it Peyton was the young guy, Ben Foster?
Bauer was Ben Foster.
Bauer, because of who Barrow was, he was able to come out of it, out of his sleep psychosis thing, and fast enough and quick enough to be able to fulfill his duty to finish this off. And with the help of the girl, Nadia, they were able to do it and be successful. I mean, they almost didn't, because if they hadn't gotten out of there and gotten that cryo tube fast enough where it was completely filled with water, they would have died before they even got to the surface. So basically, everyone that was active in this movie had a character arc, all helped in their small way to achieve the goal that to save humanity, basically, because of their actions, they saved all the other people on the ship to repopulate another planet. So I thought that was a really good ending.
Even though people died. The ending was really good, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the humanoids. I'm sorry, but that's like the weakest part of the film for me, and they don't have a better way to push the characters along aside from like, oh no, marauding cannibals, run, and that's basically what you get. But
well, it could have been, honestly, it could have been a creature that got out of their cryo tube or whatever and evolved into something else. You know what I mean? It could have been apes that got out. It could have been lizards. A lizard that got out, just like the spider was able to get out, right? So when you saw the spider in there and then you saw these other creatures, it could have been something. But to me, from the way I absorbed the movie, it seemed like people whose cryo tubes had opened up, they got out, but they, were just wandering around, not knowing what they were supposed to do because their memories were bad. And maybe they had psychosis. I mean, we don't know. I mean, we never find out what happened to these people. So we have to I assume that over time, the radiation leaking from that is what caused them to change their appearance and to evolve into something different. Their DNA was changed because of the radiation, and they looked more like cave dwellers, that some type of cave dwellers, because it was mostly dark. Because remember, there was only power surges for a very short amount of time, and only somebody who has the wherewithal still, like Nadia had, to be able to turn the lights on and do all the stuff in her area. You know what I mean? Where she was at in her laboratory, when it came to that part of her job, she was able to do that. Just like each of them had a specific duty, and that's what they were programmed as they were sleeping by the computer in their little module, is what trained them to be prepared to be able to do whatever job it was once they were brought, thought out. So I just thought that was all very, very good, and I think they did a really good job at for someone like me. I never saw it. I mean, I remember people talking about Pandorum, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't even know Dennis Quaid was in it. But I was really surprised to see that young guy to play Dennis Quaid as a young man. It came from the Twilight series, because I think that's what he was one.
Yeah, I think he was in Twilight. I try not to. Cam Gidget had some good scenes in it, but there's also some overacting he does.
Well, he's a young actor and he wasn't very good, but he did okay playing Dennis Quaid as a young character. I mean, it was believable enough for me that it didn't take me away from it too much. But I thought Ben Foster was definitely top notch in this movie. He was very believable for me for his character in this. I thought he did.
I know this sounds really bad, but this movie could have been improved with like a Dr. Morbius character and some sort of like unusual invisible beast that rips apart the crew. I would have been happier with that. Yeah, I'm ripping from Forbidden Planet, but that's a.
Oh, you mean I was thinking you were thinking like a Predator character?
No, I'm going back to 1956 because Forbidden Planet is one of the supreme science fiction movies of all time, and it does a very good job with, as limited as what they go with on mental illness. It's a very good movie that shows you just what happens when you don't have the proper amount of human contact and socialization and a proper social structure around you. Morbius goes fucking nuts and the machines under Altair 4 start animating his subconscious, and that's what causes all the problems. And finally, when the Federation arrives with Leslie Nielsen, and Leslie Nielsen sees those legs on that girl, that's when peace and humanity is restored. Sadly, Morbius dies, but he does kind of help facilitate some things. I'm sure that later on there'd be some studies at a liberal arts university over what really went wrong, and God damn it, did I go on that? Okay, but I fucking hate zombie films, and the mutants in here.
I hated Z or whatever, that one movie
yeah.
I thought that was one of my most hated zombie movies. I just thought it was totally stupid. The movie was I just didn't enjoy it at all. Nothing about it was entertaining to me. I didn't even look at these. I didn't even think about zombies until I started reading comments under the trailer. When I got on YouTube and was looking at the trailer for this movie, I was reading these comments, and they were saying something zombie this and zombie that, and I was like, and then I went and got on when I printed this paper stuffs out. It was on Rotten Tomatoes. That's where I printed that out, and I was looking at some of the stuff that people were saying. They were talking about zombie flick, and I was like, I just didn't see it like zombies. To me, zombies are like what's on The Walking Dead. Basically, they die and they come back. They're reanimated, basically, as like, something, a mindless creature. But see, I didn't see these at all. To me, these were mutations, almost like X-Men or something. It's just that they mutated over hundreds of years. It wasn't like a 20-year mutation or something. This was a whole evolving. These people that maybe, let's say, it took them 100 years, right, to get to the planet. And they crashed. So after the planet, it crashed on the planet, the ship knew that they were on the planet. Okay, because it didn't explode, it didn't break, it just landed in the ocean, basically. So the ship opens up, all the menial labor people that are supposed to start getting the ship ready for everybody to start waking up and start working on their stuff to get the planet going, rejuvenated. And once those people came out, and a lot of them probably had the psychosis, and other ones, it took them longer than they should have to figure out where the food was and how to get food and what they're supposed to be doing. And then they were exposed to the radiation. So the radiation at the bottom of the ship caused them to start dying, and becoming crippled and blind, and who knows what else happens when you get real extreme radiation poisoning, right? So that's how I saw it. I didn't see them. I didn't even think about zombies until you said it, and I'm like, what are you talking about, zombie movie? I didn't even think about it that way. So I guess I just don't have the imagination I thought I did. I looked at it way different. To me, it was like a radiation sickness or something. But over time, the ones that didn't die right away, that did just become, their skin got thinner, or they started having, when they had the first baby, they were like, their faces were all messed up and they just were deformed, looking. So I'm thinking, and then they had babies and the other ones had babies, and that's why they didn't speak or anything. They were just like running around like animals, because that's how they evolved. So basically, there were a whole new race of creatures that developed from the people that first landed on the ship, the first ones that came out of the cryotubes. That's how I looked at it. So, that's what I got.
I reference zombies because Paul W.S. Anderson is a producer in this movie, and he made one of the worst ongoing zombie franchises in film history, based off of a mostly respectable game series. I'm not a big Resident Evil fan, but it's got its place. I'll just say that. And he's tied into the Resident Evil movies because his wife is the girl that plays the main character throughout all those films, and I'm slipping on her name, but she She was really talented before she became an actress for bad movies. She put out a musical album called Divine Comedy, which was actually pretty
Yeah.
good.
Hmm.
And why am I slipping her name? Because I've forgotten about her because she's married to him. That's terrible. But just a little bit of background on this film. It was a preliminary script written by a guy named Travis Malloy in the late 1990s. It was set up to be on a prison ship called PANDORUM, and it was transporting thousands of the deadliest prisoners to another planet. Cannibal hunters were the end result of the prisoners' degradations on the ship. The characters were played by Antje Traue and Kung Lee were inmates. Ben Foster's character was a non-prisoner who didn't trust anybody. Believing no studio would make the film, Malloy thought about making it as a low-budget film shot on video in an abandoned paper mill with unknown actors. However, it attracted the attention of Paul W.S. Anderson and Jeremy Bolt, and they gave it the Impact Pictures, who greenlit it. They gave the script to director Kristen Alvart, who was struck by the similarities to his own screenplay titled To Nowhere. His dramatic story was about 4 astronauts aboard a settler ship who suffer from amnesia. They should meld the 2 screenplays together, and producers and Malloy agreed. The ship was now changed to a settler ship, and the use of the word Pandorum was changed from the name of the ship to a type of mental illness caused by sustained deep space travel. This was announced in May 2008 with Dennis Quaid and Ben Foster in lead roles. Kristen Albert was attached to direct the film based on a script by Travis Malloy. It was financed by Constantine Film through a joint venture deal with subsidiary film Impact Pictures, and they helped fund a $40 million production, $40 million. Constantine drew subsidiaries from Germany's Mildenburg, Berlin, Brandenburg Regional Film Fund. It's a film board and other subsidiaries. They gave them another $6 million to production for the second largest ever payout after the $7.5 million for Ninja Assassin, which is a good movie. Filming took place in Germany at Potsdam, the Babelsberg Studios, in August of 2008, within like 60 days or less. Now, they took it. The foreign sales presented Pandorum to buyers in 2009 at Cannes Film Festival, but due to a deal with Contender Films in the UK, MGM took it over and handled foreign sales of the film. Overture Films distributes Pandorum to North America, Icon in the UK and Australia, and Svendik Film Industry in Scandinavia, Movie Eye in Japan. It was set up as a potential franchise. It's supposed to be a threequel. It was supposed to be a trilogy.
Yeah.
According to Travis Malloy, it was supposed to have a sequel and a prequel to it. If it performed well, Impact Pictures could greenlight one or more sequels. The DVD and Blu-ray disc release occurred on January 19th, 2010 in the U.S. and over Anchor Bay Entertainment. And on the commentaries with director and producers in the commentaries, it indicates that there's an unrated version of this film exists somewhere. However, it's not been released. And Janet, are you familiar with the movie from 1997 called Event Horizon with Lawrence Fishburne and other people? I can't think of any other popular names right now. There was Lawrence Fishburne's like introduction into a wider audience. Have you ever seen Event Horizon? Janet, can you hear me? Uh-oh. I think. Does the chat hear me? The guy from Jurassic Park. Yeah, that guy. Well, there was a movie called I Can't Hear Janet. Janet, I hear you.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Ah, okay. My mic must have got messed up. Sorry. Yeah, the guy from Jurassic Park. I remember that movie. I did see Event Horizon, where everybody got stretched as they went over the edge.
Over the threshold, yeah.
That was a really good movie.
We'll have to review it sometime. There's a series of heartbreaks out there in the movie watching community, and one of them is the Event Horizon Special Edition that was supposed to be secured inside some sealed tanks where the magnetic tapes wouldn't degrade or the hard drives would not degrade, and they put these in the ground and the facility burned, burning all the proofs with them. And that's why Event Horizon has such uh, a very abrupt, jarring cuts at certain times because some of the prints were lost. And a lot of that would have been useful for a director's cut for Event Horizon. And we're never going to see that movie. We're never going to see the movie that Event Horizon was supposed to be because they chose poorly on who to give the original prints to, while they're doing things. And whenever we talk about movies like they have a director's cut or an unrated director's vision of the movie, the first movie to come to mind for me is Event Horizon.
Mm-hmm.
And that just makes me sad that there's an unrated version of this floating around somewhere because I really enjoy this movie. Aside from the humanoids, which I don't care anything about, the science fiction in this movie is amazing. And the way they handle the mental illness and the mental stress in this movie is amazing.
Yeah, very high tension
They
throughout, basically.
They did such a good job with showing the various things that a person might go through when they're coming out of hibernation or out of a hypersleep storage, and all the various ways that your body is not going to function the way you want it to. I thought this movie did a really good job. I would love to see a sequel to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to what happens once they came out of the pods.
Well, I want to know what happens on planet Tanis. I want to know if other people have mental issues or mental breakdowns as they realize there's only one colony ship. It's only us. 60,000 people is not a lot of people to start the DNA strains.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary. But they've got to start, and I think that'd be a great film. That could be fun to watch. And then, halfway through the movie, all of a sudden you have like part of the ship break apart, and here's a bunch of humanoid cannibals to push the plot along. And if you're slow because you didn't land on Altair 4, you bastards, you landed on Tanis, and so we don't have any id machine to send you your worst nightmares. Instead, we have these humanoid cannibals, which are low budget. Hey, Legion of Myth, have a good night, sir. Good seeing you, Max. I wanted to see how this movie evolved because this movie has a lot of great ideas in it, and it has some really fun to go what if mind benders on. And I know I probably mistakenly called it mind benders, but I really think you could have fun just sitting around with like 5 or 6 of your friends doing a tabletop RP of You Are the Survivors of the Elysium on Tanis, and here's what you're doing. I think you could have a whole campaign of that. That's just me.
I mean, it would be interesting though to see if the two men that worked together to write a new script using both those screenplays, what their next story would have been. You know what I mean? That's whose story I would like to see, is the ones who did the original one for this one.
I'd enjoy it. I'd buy a ticket for it. I think you have a film universe that actually would be fun to explore because this movie actually has some really good ideas. Now, granted, it's not backed by Marvel or DC, and you don't have
Thank
Disney.
goodness.
Yeah, damn it, you don't have Disney behind it.
Yeah, as long as Disney's not involved or any of the people that have made some of these other superhero movies, I think it might be pretty good. Get an independent, company behind them. But I just, that would be intriguing to me to find out what they could take from what we found out about the people and stuff in this one and put them on a planet now that's uninhabited that we know of. You know what I mean? And see what happens to them. I think that'd be interesting.
I would really enjoy it.
Story.
And I think that might happen in the future because there's a lot of classic movies that I've watched, and I don't say classic, I mean like mid-90s films that had a sequel in the 2000s that was really low budget, but it was on video only, and it had some good ideas, but because of budgets, it didn't have everything they put into it. That would be pretty impressive. One of my favorite movies of all time, Screamers, has a sequel out, and it's not a bad sequel. It's just not a great movie. It's a good continuation of a story with some of the ideas that happen in it, but you're
Yeah.
not going to have the same joy as watching the first Screamers, which I don't know if you've seen Screamers or not, but
I'm trying to remember. I remember Scanners.
Scanners is the one with Michael Ironside where they have the
Yeah.
greatest head explosion, the brain detonation.
But I don't think I've seen Screamers.
Screamers is the one with Peter Weller, and there's two warring corporations on a planet, and a kid and his entire shuttle and squad crash lands. He's the only survivor, but he's not supposed to be on this planet with Peter Weller. And they've also got a note with this kid, or with the other side, that comes in at the same time this shuttle crash lands. And one of the big generals in their army is trying to like get him to stop fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have no idea what's going on. And so Peter Weller takes this new kid with this message, and they hike out and through the radiation. And the way they avoid the radiation is they've got some special cigarettes they smoke to make their body pretty much shrug off the effects of the radiation. And the screamers are various implements used by the other side to fight this war.
Mm-hmm.
And initially, they were supposed to be on the side Peter Weller's on, but his scientists went in, made these machines with various types of screamers, various types of machines, and they made the machines to build the production of these things, mass production. And they turned on the button, hit the power button, and fled. So now you have this machine constantly printing off these weapons of not mass destruction, but like infiltration. And the entire film is just a very good narrative. We'll watch it here soon. It's a science fiction classic, but the Screamers original movie in '95 had some great ideas to it, and then they had a sequel to it, I think 2002 or 2007, and that's even worth watching. It's not classic sci-fi like Screamers 1, but it's really, for 90 minutes you're back in the same universe and enjoying yourself.
Yeah. Well,
Hey,
it sounds like something I haven't seen it. I don't remember. Is Peter Weller the guy that played RoboCop?
Yes.
Okay, well, no, I haven't seen it then.
Okay.
I've only seen a couple movies with him in it.
We're the selection of movies that I'll be doing here for the next 4 selections over the 8 weeks is going to be science fiction. For the most part, you'll get my next movie next week. I want to know what you want us to watch, by the way, next week.
This is the movie I picked.
The Prestige.
Yeah.
Surprised.
I know. I don't know why, but something made me think about it the other day when we were talking, and we were talking about it was in one of the, I don't know, it was in the chat on one of the other streams I was watching. They were talking about Hugh Jackman and how pissed off they were at him for some of the dumb stuff he's been doing now that he's getting older. And I just started thinking more and more about him. And I was like, God, he's made so many good movies, and not just Wolverine, even though I didn't like him as Wolverine when they first picked him, but he's been in a lot of really good movies. And I just really love this movie. I thought it was a very good movie, but also all the talk about Tesla and stuff because of the all the stuff that's going on with Twitter and what was it, Neuralink and all that. I thought, this has got a good Tesla character in it. So I was like, I'm thinking I'd like to watch this one again.
The Prestige is not a bad film, Bowsette. It's not exactly going to make a Jackie Chan film fan super happy,
It's got a
but
lot of intrigue in it, though.
it's got a
It's got a lot of
super
very interesting characters and how they interact with each other, and magic.
yes.
Lots of magic. If you like magic, you like magic tricks and how magic tricks work, stuff like that. I think you'll really enjoy this movie, and I'm excited about getting to watch it again because I really, I like the actors that are in it, and I really like the story, the interactings of these characters.
I'm just surprised that you picked it because Christian Bale's in it.
Yeah, I don't really like Christian, but I told you I can get past an actor's normal life outside of acting if they're a good actor. You know?
You're gonna really not like what I say, but I don't like Christian Bale's personal life bleeding into the news. I really like him as an actor, though.
I do like him as an actor. I think he's a very good actor.
Yeah, I think he's fantastic. The Machinist is one of those movies that you witness. You don't really watch it for enjoyment. You witness it, and you're like, "That was odd."
This is my favorite Christian Bale movie.
Ooh, mine would be probably Equilibrium.
That's not bad either, but this, I just loved him in this movie. I thought he did above and beyond what he needed to for this character. But I feel like all the actors in this did really, really well. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think Christian Bale did an excellent job. And people that like him as Batman, which I didn't really like him too much as Batman, but he was a good actor in it. I mean, he's good at anything he does because he is a very good actor. I mean, he's very good at his job. But so is the other characters. And also the character that plays Tesla, I would like to see him again.
Now, somebody just mentioned, Six Nation 31 Kings just mentioned, nobody talks about Yahoo Serious anymore. And I'm like, there's a name I've not heard in forever. And I find out that he's 69 years old. And boy, he looks like Bill Clinton, or at least he's off the adrenochrome. Did I say that aloud? My bad.
I think it's a lot of people that aren't taking that stuff anymore.
Yeah, the
getting hard to get a hold of. Put it that way.
Yeah, they're not making it past the lady doing all the spirit cooking. I'll just say that.
No.
What would you think? We do after the Prestige. We do about 8 serious sci-fi films.
Okay, sounds good.
And you've already seen Equilibrium, correct?
Mm-hmm. I think. Is that the movie with Denzel Washington?
Nope, that's Christian Bale, Angus McFadden.
Then I haven't seen it.
Okay.
But isn't there it's the Equalizer? That's what I was thinking. That's
Equalizer 1 and 2. Yes,
that's
see
the
those
one
two movies with Denzel. Do not watch the Queen Latifah version of the Equalizer. Do not watch the Equalizer as Queen Latifah.
But no, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the one you're talking about. So it'll be another new movie for me.
They try to convince you she can run. The special effects are bad. She cannot run. Yeah. About all Holly Woke is running out of babies to eat, and then all talk about Tesla makes me think of the fake Tesla, which leads me to fake Einstein.
Well, the thing is they have a character that plays Tesla in this movie, and it's played by David Bowie, and I'm really surprised at what a good actor David Bowie ended up being. He was just talented all around. It seemed like, you know what I mean.
I'm kind of shocked you say that because we've both watched Labyrinth over 15 times.
I know. And that's what I'm saying. When to see him sing and perform, okay, as an actor, I mean, as a singer, and then also see him in interviews with his wife and his kids and stuff like that. And then get to see him as an actor and just see how he just settles in anything he's put in. You know what I mean? It just shows to me he was just a wonderful person too, not just a great singer, He was very flamboyant. He loved life. It just, I mean, to me, he exuded, you know, happiness in his life. He just seemed to be, he acted like he was a blessed person, a person who was blessed to be loved by a beautiful woman, to have a wonderful children, and to be able to be a wonderful singer and entertainer, and then also be able to be act. How many people could say that in their lifetime? He was just a gift, very gifted. And he's another reason why I wanted to watch this movie again. For some reason, I've been listening to a lot more David Bowie music, and thinking about him and Hugh Jackman. David Bowie, the one person from him being Iggy Pop and doing some of the things he did in his younger years, you would think that he would be the one that was be cracking, you know, at the end, you know, towards the end, but he didn't. He was just seemed so calm and collected about every decision that he made, in his choices for entertainment and everything in his life. And then you have another person that seemed calm and collected when he was young, and then ends up going off the deep end as he gets older, you know? So you got those two totally different types of people in this one movie, but it all works. So I don't know. I just think in weird ways, I guess. I don't know.
Balzette makes a good point. Like, why do people take Labyrinth so seriously? It's a fine popcorn movie. It's supposed to be silly. It is.
It was silly, but that's what I loved about it. It was just like Labyrinth, and Labyrinth and Legend, and the Dark Crystal, and the Last Unicorn, Never Ending Story. All of them are movies that take you back to your childhood, to where you can enjoy the fun of it, the whimsical way it makes you feel. And they're very rare. But the thing is, and very few people are like us that can sit and watch it and be swept back into that again and feel that inside. And I've talked to so many people that just have no clue what I'm talking about.
That's the sad
about
part
feeling
about it
that
right
way.
there.
They don't understand. So we're lucky to be the few, the proud, the nerds or something. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm thankful that
I'm really surprised you're not seeing us down the road to watch Labyrinth, because that was what I was thinking you were gonna want to do.
No, I do want to watch it, but I don't want them all together because I don't know. I want to put in a serious one, one that's fun. You know, I'm really been chomping at the bit to do another musical. So, you know, because I love Victor Victoria. I know you didn't really enjoy it as much as I did, but I laughed and laughed and laughed. I just, you know, I'm in that mood right now. I'm in the mood to.
I love Julie Andrews. Let's get some things out of the way. The cast of Victor Victoria is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. The singing, everything about it to me was just it just sweeps me away into you know, just I don't know, romantic interlude type feeling, and I just loved that. In Birdcage, I felt the same way when I watched it. It just depends on, just like my videos. I do stuff that's fun, makes me laugh. Sometimes it's a little serious. I might have, or I'll be depressed and make a depressing one. I don't know. I can't help it. I'm the same way when I pick a movie to watch. I'm picking it because of basically my mood and what I'm thinking about, or what I'm dwelling on, or something. I don't know. I'm just weird.
you're complex, and it's okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what makes me turn, or my clock tick back and forth. I don't have
I really did like Victor Victoria. I don't want you to think I didn't. I would consider that movie probably about a 7.5 now.
Mm-hmm.
The Birdcage, I didn't enjoy it nearly as much because I'm not a big Robin Williams sober fan. Robin Williams before he quits cocaine, 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Robin Williams after, I'm watching a zombie film. This is not Robin Williams I'm gonna watch. And I know he did it for Zelda. I know he did it because he's a father.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, Robin. If you wanted that life, you should have not done cocaine and done amazing Janir Bendrine stand-up comedy that you have to listen to on an 8-track or on your cassette tape over 4 times to get all the jokes. Okay?
Well,
You
the
ruined me, you
the
spoiled
reason I
me, and then you
watched
get sober, you fucker.
the reason I liked The Birdcage so much, it wasn't really because of Robin Williams. It was because of Gene Hackman. My mom loved Gene Hackman. He was one of her very favorite actors, and she's the one that got me to watch the movie. And getting to see him dressed as a woman
That was
in
classic.
that movie was shocking to me because he is one of the most macho. I mean, to me, Gene Hackman was like John Wayne was to my mom. Is one of the most macho men you could think of. And he's Lex Luthor, for God's sake. It was just shocking to me to see him. But I laughed and I laughed and I laughed. Nathan Lane. I mean, just there's so many good scenes in that movie that I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was very well made movie, very good script, very heartwarming story. I just loved it. I liked everything about it, and the fact that Gene Hackman was in it, and he did an excellent job. I just loved it. So that's why
I
I
honestly
wanted.
believe that Gene Hackman played one of the best cops on film of all time, and I this is hurting me to say because one of my favorite movies from 1992 is a movie, no, 2002, is called Dark Blue with Kurt Russell and Speedman. I can't remember the guy's first name, but he was in Underworld. Uh, Gene Hackman played a much better cop in. He played Jimmy Popeye Doyle in The French Connection, which is one of my that's a classic film.
Yeah.
If you said we're going to watch classic films, nothing made before 75, that's one of my first choices. And fucking Popeye Doyle is like one of the greatest cops ever on film, in my opinion. He just played the quintessential cop. Fight me. I don't give a shit. Like,
So that's your favorite Gene Hackman movie?
Yeah.
My favorite.
Even though Heartbreakers is like the absolute old man gonna do whatever he wants to do movie, and I mean Heartbreakers and I'm talking about Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sigourney Weaver, Ray Liotta, Gene Hackman, and that is like comedy gold. That's one of the funniest movies that Hackman was in. But my favorite role for him ever was Popeye Doyle. God damn it.
Yeah, he was in a lot of great movies. I mean, he's just one of those other actors that you just throw any role at him and he could pretty much be that person. But one of my very favorite movies with Gene Hackman is The Package.
Well, you got The Package, you got Unforgiven, you got Mississippi Burning. I mean, he was Lex Luthor, and of course, in 1978's the worst Superman film on script because there's no fight. I'm sorry. But he played a damn good Lex Luthor in that movie. He's in The Quick and the Dead, Enemy of the State.
Oh, The Quick and the Dead. That's another one.
We're gonna go there. I gotta get a cowboy movie shipped to my home before we can even talk about it because I gotta have it in hand.
Yeah, I have that movie.
No, not that, not The Quick and the Dead. I gotta get this other cowboy film in my hand before I even talk about it on YouTube. That way I don't get canceled right away because the title of it will cancel you if you're of this pigmentation. And some of you that are fans of Fred Williamson know what I'm talking about. But I've got to get that shipped in so we can watch it because that is a fantastic blaxploitation.
Blades and Saddles?
No.
Oh.
No, I'll type it in the private chat and you'll be like, what? And I'm like, yeah.
Okay, I have no clue. It's like, is this going like right over my head? But yeah, I'm excited about watching The Prestige. I think it's a very well made movie, and oh my goodness, okay.
I gotta have that DVD in my hand before I can even talk about it. Okay. They'll fucking cancel me.
But yeah, I think Prestige is a good movie. It takes us in a different direction than where we've been for a little while. It takes us to the other side of fantasy, basically with magic, but in a more of a realistic, real life terminologies with it. And I think it'd be good. I think it's a good flip. And it's not a war movie, basically. I mean, it kind of is, but it doesn't have guns and bombs and, you know, machine guns, stuff like that. Because I know you love that stuff. So you can pick those kind of movies.
Okay.
Because I picked The Great Raid, and it's still a great movie. But it was more realism, more about the real life tragedy that war brings. So one of my very favorite movies, too.
Yeah. Janet, I've got to go grab Chinese real quick.
Okay.
If you would...
Well, I mean, we're about done now, aren't we?
Okay. Well, I guess we could end it now, but
since you got to eat, and I got to go take some sinus medicine because man, I'm stuffed up big time. My allergies are terrible.
One of my buddies texted me. He wants you to flex your buys real quick because he's like, she's stacked, guys. Yeah. Yeah,
but I'm careful about not losing this because when you work out, when you lift weights and things like that, like gymnasts, they lose all the fat because mostly boobs are fat, right? People don't realize that. And if you do too many exercises in the wrong ways, you lose your chest. So I am very careful when I work out to work this, but not flatten knees. So it's not easy, but but thanks.
Very good.
Or kick some booty. No, it's good. But yeah, I do work out. I work out every other day. I wear weights around my ankles and I wear weights around my wrists and I do all my routine. It takes me 2.5 hours. And then I massage. Well, I do a massage chair and the hydro beds. I don't know if any of you guys know what that is, but
I know the hydro bed very well.
And I've made a video that's on my channel about it costs $20, about $20 a month to sign up for a gym, and $20 is what you would spend at McDonald's for almost one meal. So basically, one meal at McDonald's that you sacrifice, you could pay to go to a gym and work out.
I recommend that.
Good for you. It helps you. It helps your skin. It helps your muscles and your blood flow and your stamina. So that's important. All those things are important. But, I'm not trying to tell people not to eat burgers because I do. I had a burger before dinner tonight. But you have to balance it out. Work out, drink lots of water, and exercise.
I've switched from my evening drink from a lot of alcohol to this tea.
Mm-hmm.
I know that some of you don't like product placement, but I'm going to throw it out there. Blackout Coffee Company sells tea, and this is their booze or blueberry tea.
Yeah, you were talking about that to me. I need to get on your thing and order me some because I'd like to try that.
This is great. This is absolutely delicious, and it's fantastic. I just recommend this. Got a good taste to it. It's not got any caffeine. It's a green tea. Mm-hmm. So if you understand what green teas are, then you know what's up ahead. But it'll help you. It'll help clean you out. It'll get some antioxidants in you, and you'll.
Yeah, antioxidants is very good for you. Mm-hmm.
Blackout Coffee owns 49% of my soul. The 51% side I don't get paid by is 22 Sierra Coffee, which their breakfast blend is fan-fucking-tastic. And it's got an A10 Warthog in the package. So, I mean, you'll understand what I mean when you see that, like, oh, it's got a good picture. Well, when you brew it, it actually comes out great.
Well, tea is good for you. I mean, well, nothing in too many of it isn't good for you, but in small amounts it's good for you.
I would agree
Well,
with
if you
that.
don't put a ton of sugar in it. Now, I can't drink it black. I can't drink coffee black, and I can't drink tea without some sugar in it, or honey, because honey's good for you too. Especially
I
someone like me. Local honey's good for someone who has allergies like I do. So, you know, we can only try different things. Oh, Tommy's here. Hi, Tommy.
Tommy!
Thank you for joining us for a little bit. You missed our talk if you just showed up. We've already
I'm
talked
sorry,
about the
Tommy.
movie.
Um, yeah, I've been trying to clean up some things, trying to get rid of the dependence on 2 beers of a day, and that's a fight. But um, I want to go grab my food, and I know this sounds kind of greedy, but I want to eat. You're good, Tommy. The paw prints are fine. Um, Janet, do you want to escort us out?
Um, like, what do you mean?
Okay. I was just saying, like, just wrap up. Like next week we're going to be doing the movie The
Oh, okay,
Prestige.
well, yeah, next week I picked the movie The Prestige. I think it'll be a really good swap from what we've been doing with sci-fi fantasy type things. Give us a little bit of a break. But if you're into magic and intrigue, I think you'll really enjoy this movie if you haven't seen it already. It's got Hugh Jackman in it and Christian Bale, and I'm trying to remember what her name is. The girl that played the Black Widow in the
Oh,
Marvel
yeah.
movies, in the Avengers. What was her name? Yeah,
Scarlett Johansson.
and yeah, Scarlett Johansson's in it. So, and it's got David Bowie. It plays a character in it. He plays Tesla. So, I think if you haven't seen it, you'll really like it. It's a good movie to watch. Uh, then we can do a review on it next week because I haven't seen it in quite a while. It's been quite a while since I've seen it, but I just think it's very entertaining, and it'll take us to a totally different realm of intrigue compared to some of the other movies that we've already watched. So I think you guys will really enjoy it. But I'm hoping you will. But I'm excited about watching it. And I know I haven't been. I'm not real happy right now with Hugh Jackman and some of his decisions that he's made in public. It's kind of really hurt my image of him. But oh well. I mean, we all got to do stupid shit sometime in our life, I guess. We got to embarrass ourselves.
I
But
don't have to pay for his Mercedes. That's all I got to say.
but it's just sad. I have been it just really let the air at me when he was promoting that book by some other jerk. So I'm just sad about that. But hopefully I can watch this and it'll help me get past my pissed offness about what he's done lately. But I still think he's a good actor. I just won't. And I've already paid for it. So it's not like I'm going to the movie theater and buying a new movie or something. But yeah, hopefully, if you haven't seen it, you try to watch it before we do the review and see what you guys think about it. I thought it was pretty good.
I'd love to hear everybody else's discussion about it, or at least see the chat blow up on it, because The Prestige is a fantastic film, I think.
I think it is too. It's got very good special effects. Um, and the acting is really good. I think it's a top notch uh, crew of people that put this movie together. So I'm excited about watching it and talking about it. But thank you guys for showing up tonight. I really appreciate it. And I hope that we didn't bore you too much. Um, it was fun. I always enjoy it on Monday night. I look forward to it.
1973. I got a question from Tommy asking me, have you guys ever watched 1973 or 2010, The Crazies? That's with Speedman and Liv Tyler, if I remember right.
No, I haven't seen that one.
We'll have to put that on the list. Appreciate the hookup.
I mean, we're trying to think of something to do. Aren't we going to try to think of something different to do for the 50th episode?
Yes. The 50th,
Like countdown or something?
the annual episode, we're going to do something a little different.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll discuss that here in the privates in a bit. But that is that's coming up here within a month.
I can't wait to see how that turns out.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Once we
Janet,
decide what we're going to do.
I had a fun time. Chat, I had a great time with you. I look forward to seeing you again next week. If you are into gaming and you follow us on Table Breakers, on Thursdays, I'll be having the sequel to the beta test I'm running right now, and we'll see how the players turn out with that. Janet, you have you're doing shorts on a daily basis, right? Or is it every
Yeah,
day?
well, I've been trying to, but my dad was sick and I've had some other things going on. So hopefully this next week, I'm going to try to read some more from my book and then come out with a few more shorts. So we'll see how that goes. But, I just do it around my, making my art and whatever else I'm working on. Plus, I'm supposed to be moving into a new boutique this week coming up. Hopefully tomorrow or the next day, I'll have my own little booth set up in there and be able to put some artwork in it. And that will help make me feel better that, I'm able to not have a stack of stuff here because it's just hard to get people to see it. And with it framed, because trying to mail it that way, it's just really hard. And I'd hate to have to take the frames off of all this work after I've framed them and cut mats for them to send them somewhere, because they're so expensive right now to mail anything with a heavy, nice, refurbished frame. Because that's what I try to do. I try to recycle old frames and cut new mats for the pictures that I make, and make them like originals, because now that they're reborn, basically. You know what I mean? The frames are, because everything I have, I crochet bags made out of used plastic bags, like Walmart, Dollar General, Kroger bags, things like that. And I don't use a pattern. I just start making something, and it turns out different, unique ways. And then I also take t-shirts and make them into like tote bags or shoulder bags or whatever. And, I recycle magazines and make pictures with them and decoupage them. And then I also take old records and make like mobiles and stuff out of them. So I'm always doing something. I'm always making something. I'm never bored because when you see, I never shut up. When there's no one around, I'm making something, so I'm not for it. But
next time you put yourself out there at Jedi Bill's Karaoke Academy, will you do me a favor and send a link or post it in your YouTube? No. We gotta have the opportunity to see this, because Janet belting out the tunes. That's
I only did one, and it was I did it with a duet with someone else, and we sang the Time Warp. It was fun. It was great. I had a good time. I didn't even know that you were allowed to do that on the channel, because I thought you'd get in trouble, with the copyright stuff.
Karaoke, it's a little fuzzy. Okay, with YouTube, it's a little fuzzy. If you're white, they're gonna just bust you, and we can try to disguise Jedi Bill. He can possibly be a POC. So we might be able to get away with it. He's Persian, let him go, But we love Jedi Bill, and he's one of the best guys out there. He does a lot of pickup streams late at night, and if you're not a friend of his, be a friend of his, because he's a hell of a guy. Hangs out with a real good crew. Another one that's finally getting traction is my friend DJ Odyssey, and I've been seeing him pop around on some other bigger channels lately. I absolutely love seeing him on panels, and like he's kind of been out of it this last year. He was doing a middle of a big stream, like a 24-hour stream, and he damn near had I think he had a heart attack on stream, and he recognized he had a heart attack, and he's like, I'm really just not feeling too well, guys. I gotta go. And then he hit in stream and goes to the hospital. Like, I don't even think he had somebody drive him there. I think he got himself to the hospital. I mean, the guy's got just some serious.
Terrible.
He's got some nuts, and he lives in Illinois, up in my old stomping grounds, Peoria, Kankakee area. Guy's got a lot of moxie, real good fella. Loves Star Trek. I mean, just fun dude. So I don't want to. I want to eat. I'm sorry, guys.
Okay, well, that's all right.
I
But thank you guys for coming, and hopefully you'll join us next week
yes,
when we
please.
review The Prestige.
It's one of the few Chris Nolan movies I didn't fall asleep watching it the first time. So I hate saying that, but that's the truth. I will talk to everybody until then. Janet, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me. It's fun.
You're perpetually invited, hon. Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.